Hello out there and welcome. My name is Sharon Froshin. I am the Chief Operating Officer of the Discover Your Path U platform, where we believe that every life can teach and everyone can grow. To that end, I am also the host of this show, The Connection Sessions, where we bring together practitioners, artists, entrepreneurs, marketers, spiritualists, mentors, and students in an effort to connect to community, learn from each other, and grow. And today I have with me a wonderful woman who happens to be a little stick of dynamite. She's one of those women that when she walks into a room, everybody sits up and takes notice. I have with me Nina Kaufmann, who runs a company called Nina's Empire, a name which I have always loved. And Nina, like many of the people that I've had on this show already, is very into intuitive eating, caring for your body, and how doing so improves your business. So I just love it, Nina. If you would take a moment to introduce yourself, let us know how you got into life coaching and what Nina's Empire is all about.
Thank you. That is such a lovely introduction. I started actually from my own personal experience and the problems I had with food. And then I got interested I was always a big foodie and so on, but I was always obsessed with losing weight, with like being fit enough to go to the beach and blah, 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 blah. And I don't know, at some point in life, it was just too much. And then I also started watching my daughter, and she was a baby, and I realized I can't allow her to become me, because whatever I do, she's gonna mirror and she's gonna become that. And the more I thought about that, the more I realized that, the same happened to me, and the same is going on with so many women around who are just wasting their time thinking, when will they be allowed to eat? What will they be allowed to eat? How many calories? And what is the next fancy big diet that will change their lives? And, so I realized that it's not about what we eat, it's about why we eat and how we eat and so on. So that was all happening while I was doing my nutrition certification program. And then in those 2 years after I was done, I realized that I learned all about what foods are good, what foods are bad, what people should be eating, and how many calories everything had. But I saw that there was a piece missing, and that was that why are people eating? Because basically all of us know that it's better to eat a carrot than some cookie, but not all of us do that. And I got interested in that, and then I realized that maybe I should expand that and then I went on to life coaching and mindfulness and NLP and hypnotherapy. It just starts, and I'm so fascinated with that, because I realized how much that food freedom and ditching the diet changed me and my life, and how much more I was free to be a better person and to do other stuff and to live a life when I didn't have to think about, if I'm allowed to eat a cookie in 3 hours or not. And then I realized that I need to share that with the world, and that's how the empire was born.
I actually met you through the group Nourish, through the panel Ditch the Diet, Face the Feelings, which again, thank you so much for that, Beth Gray. It's been a wealth of great new relationships for me and for many other people. And I love what you just said, that it's not about what we eat, it's about why we're eating it. And that is a philosophy that, number one, is not at all expressed in the diet industry, and number two, really takes us to the root of what drives our patterns and behaviors where food and diet are concerned. So for you, you brought up your daughter and how you didn't want her to become you. What have you instituted in your own life to help shape her why to be a more positive outlook on food and diet?
Well, I realized that she won't do what I say, she will do what I do. And then
Yes.
I started, I saw then how I was becoming who my mother was being and not what she was always telling me to do. Yeah. And it's always the case, we don't, our parents tell us, you know, don't smoke, don't do this, don't do that. But if they are doing it, you know, their words are kind of pointless. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't take them seriously. So I realized that what I need to do is focus on myself and focus on loving and accepting myself as much as possible, so that she can grow up to know that that is a normal relationship to have with yourself. And once that, then I started, you know, this whole journey of discovering who am I and so on. And with that, I also was doing the intuitive eating journey, where I just ditched the diet and focused on what my body wants and needs. And it resulted in insane results. You know, it's, instead of focusing all the time what has smaller amount of calories or fat or carbs or whatever, it was about what makes me feel good. And that was how I gradually started eating healthier than ever, because it was about me and not about food. And the journey was just so awesome that I think that everyone deserves to go through that. And I see other women like my clients who have been dieting for 20 years, and then they realize that they don't need to do that, that they are enough just as they are.
Yes.
And it's mind-blowing when you realize that. And I think that it also goes, once that I show up like that to my daughter, she will show up to other people. Maybe someone else will hear or see how she's with herself, how I'm with myself, how all of my clients, and then it goes, you know, it spreads. And I think that's the mission of the empire, basically. I want to show the world what women can do when they ditch the diet and focus on living their best life, you know, because there are so many women just suffering pointlessly through the dieting and obsession with food.
And it's so true that when we look out at society around us now, there are girls that are 7, 8, 9 who are already obsessed with calorie restriction, you know, carefully watching what I eat. And I remember when I was 6, 7, and 8, I couldn't keep weight on. It wasn't a matter of me getting too big. It was I couldn't get enough food in me. But once we have that message planted in our head that you have to, all of a sudden we begin to see monsters where there aren't monsters. You know, we're too fat, our butt's too big, our thighs touch, et cetera, we're flat chested, whatever it may be. And we just fall into that trap. So as a woman, especially a woman who spends so much time empowering other women, what are some of the messages that you would give to our female listeners and even our male listeners who are struggling with attaching all of their worth to this physical appearance?
I would suggest to just forget about what your body looks like and focus on what does it do for you every day. Because that was a huge one for me to be. We don't need to start with loving your body if you think you are too fat or you have big thighs or butt or whatever. And we all know that, I mean, all of us have some of those things, but that doesn't make you a person. That is just a vessel for living your life. And once you focus on what does the body do for you, everything you are able to experience in life, it's just because that body is working 24/7 all the time, without you having to ask or beg or even think about it. You go on and live your life, and your body is just doing what its job is, and that's to keep you healthy and alive. And that's amazing. That was a big mindset shift for me when I stopped focusing on the weight or how I look or whatever, and started focusing and appreciating that everything I ever had in my life was because my body was working for me.
Indeed. And when we think about everything that we stack and dump into our bodies now, all the chemicals and the cosmetics that we're using, all of the chemicals in the food, the amount of food that we're eating, when we're eating, it is amazing. I mean, you really have to admire how powerful our bodies are to be able to filter through all of that and still keep going.
Yeah, that is what amazes me more and more every day, because it's not just what we eat, it's in the air. There are, hormone disruptors and so on. So you can't even avoid the toxins, and they are everywhere, just, in the food, in the mattresses, in the air, in the everything you use, the products for your skin, the products for cleaning, everywhere. And the more you dive into that, the more you realize how amazing is that we are even alive. It's amazing what these bodies can do. So that is, the more I was diving into that, and the more I start teaching people around how awesome our bodies are, the easier it is to get that message that it's not, about what we eat, it's about how we eat. And I think that the relationship with food is the basis, it's the foundation, because we eat every day multiple times, and there you always have a choice. Do I want to eat until I'm overstuffed and can't move for the next hour, or do I want to eat until I feel good and I'm done then with that? And then when you have that healthy relationship with the amount of food and your hunger and satiety, then you can move on and ask, okay, does this food make me feel good? Do I feel good 2 hours or 3 or 5 after I ate this, or am I bloated? Am I this or not? And then you can make better choices. And then it spills all over your life, and when you have that balance in your eating, and don't have to obsess about that, and don't have to worry so much about your weight and eating, you can focus on other stuff and learn so much. Just if you don't do anything else but learn with that free time that you now have, it's amazing.
It's interesting when we look back over the history of Western society, how somewhere in the middle of the 20th century, it began being portrayed, especially here in America, to people that it was a luxury that indicated status if you no longer had to cook your own meals. If you could go to a store and just pick something off of the aisle of a store, rather than being responsible for farming your own meat, growing your own grain, your own vegetables, making your own bread. And I know that at least here in America, especially after World War II, we wholly bought into that idea that I shouldn't have to do this. Things should be brought to me and things should be easy. And you can see from that point forward how the size of our bodies grew with basically our onerous, in believing that everything should just be offered to us as though we were gods. How do you help your clients deal with taking more personal responsibility in making what they eat and ensuring that they know what the ingredients are in their own food?
Yeah, you are totally right. That is what I call microwave mindset. We expect it just to show up on the plate in front of us. And honestly, for me, that was one of the things that drove me to study nutrition, because I came from Croatia, and there is a Mediterranean diet, is a normal diet, and those fast food things are new things that are coming there, unfortunately, but it's happening. And when I came here to Germany, I was shocked with the amount of packages that these people have. And I mean, in the beginning, it was fun, wow, they ate all of that like it's normal, I want all of it. But after a couple of months, I was disgusted. I don't know, I just can't anymore. And then I realized that, those people think that it's normal to buy your food in a package and then you drop it in the microwave and you have a meal 5 minutes, not even 5. What does it take? 2 minutes or 1? And that is just so disconnected from the food. And it's no wonder that you can't rely on your hunger signals, because your body has, your body doesn't only see the amount of food, it also wants nutrients and so on. And if you are eating empty calories, of course, your body will be hungry, because it's hungry for the real food with the vitamins and minerals and everything it needs. And then that was just so mind-blowing to me, how people are accepting that on their plates, like everyday meals that take 2 minutes. And when I remember my mother, she would spend, half day there peeling and cutting and so on.
Yeah.
And then I came here into a completely different, mind-blowing, yeah. But it's the first step is just to know how much you need to eat, and to tune into your body and ask it every time, what do you want to eat, what do I need now, and so on. And from there, it naturally happens that you see more and more that your body doesn't want to eat pizza, frozen pizza every night. Your body craves something that is nutrient dense too. And it also, it happened to me. I now eat so much healthier just because I decided that I don't care what I eat. And even if it is a frozen pizza, if I feel like it, it's okay. It's not like you need to eat perfectly or anything. It's just about asking yourself what you need, what your body needs, and then doing it. And if it is a pizza or a cake or whatever, that there is no guilt or shame or anything attached to it of those negative feelings, because that creates that restriction and diet mentality, which drives you then, oh, when I ate now a piece of cake, I can just eat the whole thing because I am a failure anyways, So there is so much to it, and once you start that intuitive eating journey, then it leads naturally to eating healthier.
It does. And part of the whole intuitive food thing is that we used to be so much more intimately involved in the preparation of our food. I remember when I was growing up, my grandma, who was from the South and was a stir-fry cook from Louisiana, her idea of family was a bunch of people getting together and everybody being in the kitchen all day, each person having some responsibility of what the food was, it being cut, prepped, whatever. And then at the end of the day, getting together and eating. And part of the gratitude that was so easy to express in her generation over that food was because you knew what had gone into preparing it. You were intimately involved. And I'm one of those people that honestly believes that gratitude expressed towards anything energetically elevates it. So how do you, yeah, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a powerful, so how do you help your clients understand that being intimately involved in that preparation process actually energetically shifts the food that they're eating?
I think that comes naturally. It's when you start intuitively eating, and when you start feeling what you need and what your body needs, then you start feeling more connected to that food, and it just flows naturally. It's just those checkpoints on the journey, when you are someone who started from eating microwave pizza, and then you go on and prepare your own meals and just ask yourself, what do I want to eat, and so on. And and you prepare that for yourself. That whole journey from the food, just making a meal, is also a journey of gratitude. When you need to prepare your meal, it's you are deeply connected with it. And that's why I say always that love goes through food also. Because, when I do a meal for myself, I do it because I love myself and I want it to be something that is really good for me, because I have a, ambition to live as much as possible, and I want to be able to run with my grandchildren and so on, and to be sitting and just watching other people live their life and just waiting to die. And it doesn't have to be that way. And then when you start, it just unfolds, the whole thing just unfolds if you are willing to stick to it.
Indeed. I just want to take a moment to recognize a couple of our viewers. We have Becky Stokes, we have Michelle Wiseman, Andrea Hendren, and Monique Prinsloo. And Andrea says, real food tastes so good. I'm so glad that you are teaching this. And Monique says, Nina, hello, heart, heart. There's some people here hanging out with you. One of my favorite things about ninasempire.com is the recipes that you provide on this site, because a lot of people can spend a great deal of time searching all over the web trying to find what should I eat? And you provide just a vast array of recipes to help people get on that track of intuitively eating. So what are a couple of your favorite recipes?
All of them.
Well, it's like me.
Yeah. All of them are the foods that I eat on a regular basis, and especially the cookies and the baked goods. I love it, especially in the winter and so on. And in Germany, I am blessed, let's say, with the longer winters. So the baking takes, I can do it more often, and it's so good. And the breads are amazing, and the bread rolls and the cookies and everything. And those are the things that I want people to combine, that taste of this is amazing, I can't wait to eat this again, with the nutrition part of it and why is it good. That's why I say in every of the recipe, if all of them, why it is delicious and nutritious, and why they should try it and give it a go. Because it's not, as I said, it's not about eating perfectly or anything, but it's about expanding. And the more you expand and the more you try new foods and so on, if someone started from that point of a microwave food, then this is a major step forward. And once you start with that intuitive eating journey, you are open to take those steps. And it was the same for me. I started doing and eating all of those different and amazing foods just because I was interested to see what is there more, what can I do, and it's so creative that's why that's that gratitude again. It's so creative to make your own food, to bake that bread, to have that smell in the house.
Oh,
and
God, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And it also brings back to the childhood, and it's so good and warm, and it's amazing. All of them. Start with the bread.
It really is. And I think you brought up a valid and very important point that we really lose in our black and white society. And that is, if you are 600 pounds and you are currently eating Tostitos rolls and Hostess Ho-Hos all the time, it is unreasonable to expect that tomorrow you're going to weigh 200 pounds and be surviving on a juice diet. That just isn't reality. There has to be the willingness to give yourself grace and space to change. So how do you help your clients that are currently in that category of eating frozen pizza every night and Hostess treats? How do you help them understand and let go of that black and white thinking so they can find the nuances of the grays that actually help us change?
That is such a good question, because the whole idea of intuitive eating is to be in that gray area, because the black and white thinking is what got all of us in the trouble with food. It's that, if I'm not allowed to eat until 7, and then I can have my chicken breast and steamed broccoli, and if you fail with that, and at some point you have to fail with that, because our bodies are not made to be starving all the time. Yeah. And then you have that cookie or a piece of cake, and then it goes to the black, I failed. Yeah, I can now eat everything, and that leads to binging, and that is the first thing that needs to stop. That is the first thing that people need to heal, to allow themselves to eat cookie and the broccoli and whatever they feel like eating. And when you give yourself that permission to eat, then you are able to try out new stuff. There are people that were so restricted that they couldn't eat ice cream for years. And it's a giant step to go from that to just try it once. It requires a huge mindset shift. So it's about those small steps. And then as the journey progresses, they get more interested in foods and more foods and more tastes, because if you spend years eating steamed broccoli and chicken, you are hungry, and that is just natural to want to try more and more and more different stuff and so on. And the funny thing about that is that so many of my clients and so many people I come in contact with who experienced intuitive eating and weren't allowed, let's say, to eat some particular cake for years or whatever months, or it doesn't matter, you know, and they obsess about it, and that is all they want, and then they try it, and then they leave it because it doesn't taste good. You know, once you have a permission, it doesn't. The same thing was with me and the chocolate. You know, I used to be like obsessed. It's funny now, but it wasn't. I used to be like, you know, I can't eat all day. I wouldn't eat all day, and then in the evening I would eat the chocolate alone in 5 minutes, you know. And if I had more, then I would eat those too. But now that I don't care, you know, that I allowed myself to eat it, I wouldn't put it in my mouth if I didn't have anything else, because I tried it a few times after I started intuitive eating, and every time it ended with me spitting it out and going back to dark chocolate because it tastes like chocolate and not like sugar. And that's something that happens often with people, you know, that they just want those foods because they aren't allowed to have them. And once you give yourself permission to eat, then they are not that interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. A spiritual teacher of mine teaches that you do not have choice until every choice is available to you. Up until you make every single choice in whatever category it is that you're dealing with available to you, you really don't have the power of choice because you don't have availability of all options. It's when we step out of this idea that I need to be monitored and step into giving ourselves true freedom of choice that we really begin to settle into a healthier lifestyle. How do you help your clients do that? Help them understand that you have to give yourself the ability to choose anything.
Yeah, that is a perfect explanation, and that goes, you know, if you restricted a broccoli, you would want it. So it's about that, and once you allow yourself to have it, then it wouldn't be so interesting. Nobody craves broccoli, you know, they crave cookies and such things that they aren't allowed to have. And it starts with the smallest steps, you know. For example, if someone wasn't allowed to eat that cake, then their assignment is to go on and eat a piece of that cake. And maybe they don't need to get the whole cake in the house if they are scared and so on, that they are going to binge and so on, but they can go to a restaurant and try it and just be there and mindfully eat it. Because mindful eating is the key to doing this really well, but the part where you ask yourself, what do I need right now? If you are just mindlessly picking up something that you picked up 50 million times before today, that's not mindful eating. But if you sit with that cake and you say, here we are, and I'm going to enjoy you if you taste good. And exactly.
That's hilarious. Well, I'm looking at the time, and we are already at the end of our half hour, which constantly amazes me. Nina, this has been an incredible conversation, and a conversation that I actually, with your permission, would like to share into the Nourish group that Beth and Sarah run, because it's such a powerful representation of the small little changes we can make, not in micromanaging on our diet, but rather in giving ourselves as sentient beings more choices and therefore a sense of freedom, which keeps us from running back and forth between choices that aren't good for us. So thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you to everyone who is here watching with us. If you do come and watch this later after we're no longer live, I just ask that you give us a hashtag replay in the comments so that we know that you were here. We can check in with any comments that you might have. And as always, everyone, we will be here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Thank you so much for joining us, and mwah, it was great having you guys here.
Having me.
Oh, it was my pleasure, Nina. Bye, everyone.
Bye.